There's so much happening today in psychology and in technology and in education and in business. That intersection is fascinating. Yes, my bio is a he does stuff just because having been a former accountant and then a former educational psychologist and now instructional technology, I have my fingers in a lot of different pies. What am I known for? I guess mostly it's helping people to teach online and think about becoming more creative in their pedagogies. So I'm trying to distill a lot of information, synthesize a lot of information, so that others don't have to read everything out there. I try and keep a little bit of a pulse on what's going on in different countries and bring people together for symposiums and panels so that we can share ideas. So sharing is extremely important to me, and you'll notice a lot of my websites have the word share in them. Publication, share. Training, share. Survey, share. So I believe in the power of sharing. I was publishing as many articles as I can in open access journals. And I found that those are the articles that tend to be cited. And those are the ones, if I have a book, for instance, in the past, I'd ask for one chapter to go up free to the world. Again, those would be the ones that would be cited, the one that was free to the world. It was a way to have an influence in other places and extend the network. There are many reasons why one would share contents, whether it's a journal article, whether it's a part of a research project or proceedings, or whether it's an entire book or just a chapter of a book. There are different reasons for all of that. I would say also, I can then use that book in my classes and my students don't have to pay any book fees. If you have a free and open access book, it has a greater opportunity to be translated in a quicker fashion and influence folks in parts of the world you might not ever travel to. And part of it's to make an impact. And I think we all want to make an impact in some way. We want to make a dent. We want to have something that we can write home about to our mothers and our fathers and say, hey, actually something I wrote actually was not just bought by 100 people or 1,000 people or whatever most books in academia are, 1,000, but actually was downloaded 90,000 times. Contents are today available for classes and for our research and for our training of others, our professional development endeavors. And so, given that, there's got to be a lot of caveats and guidelines for the plethora of data that's in front of us today. For me, what I do is I take a screenshot. I save the URL. It's a way for me then to search back through and, this same idea about robotics has come up before, this idea about blended learning, or this idea about augmented reality and lenswear. The second is have students evaluate what you did find and made available to them. You can maximize those things that tend to be highly popular and minimize those things that are not. Have students add to the contents, have them suggest one or two items, and have them be what I call the cool resource provider who once a semester has to go to the web and find things that relate to 1 week of class. And those ideas you can use next time. So you're not the only one acting as a curator. Your students can be, prior students can be, other faculty who teach the same class can be. And when you get all those players making a contribution, you start to see some themes and patterns emerge. That was not easy. It was also in some ways not hard. It was not easy from the standpoint in that I had to take psychology classes to get into graduate school, and those included some television courses and correspondence courses, some face-to-face courses. It was a combination. Also being in a cube farm, and just being constrained to those who you can help. When you're an accountant, you're a watchdog for the organization. You're not allowed to share. When you're in higher education as a professor, that's what you do. And so in some ways, it's very easy to move into that side of life after having been sheltered as an accountant, if you will. and having the same day be Groundhog Day over and over again. There's only so much of that one can do. So it becomes exciting and refreshing and exhilarating to be in the field of education today when there's so much happening. Evolution of e-learning, and just learning in general, over the past 3 or 4 decades has moved from being very didactic, instructor-centered, to one that is much more focused on the learner and the teacher's role as a guide in the learning process. The environments, at least in part, should be exploratory in nature and enable students to contribute, to participate in their own learning, to self-direct aspects of their own learning, to find resources as well as to receive them from the instructor and then contribute them into the entire system or community of a class. The Tech Variety model is a set of 10 principles of motivation that kind of evolved over a 14-year span from 2000 to 2014 when the book came out. My colleague Vanessa Denon and I came up with the idea, and then the acronym evolved over time. The Tech Variety model kind of came out of looking at the 10 motivational principles, saying, well, if I manipulate these a little differently, tone, the T, the climate, safe climate, encouragement or feedback, curiosity, then we got variety, autonomy, relevance, interactivity, engagement, collaboration engagement, tension, dissonance, yielding products, product-based learning. You get those 10 together, it's spelled Tech Variety. Each of those principles, each of those alone could be deemed the most important thing you can do. Yielding products, project-based learning, meaningful, authentic learning, feedback and supports, encouragement and feedback. Each one of these is vital for success, and each one could be picked at as the ultimate. You do not have to use all 10. There's a few, but it becomes a reflection point, a way to say, hey, wait a minute. How am I building interactivity in this class? How am I getting students engaged? Is the content relevant? So it's not a checklist per se, but a way of reflecting professionally on what you're doing. It becomes a kind of a little scaffold, if you will, to support you as an instructor. The intersection of psychology, technology, business, and education is where my interests lie. There's so much happening today in psychology, and in technology, and in education, and in business. That intersection is fascinating. And just the educational technologies alone. And the third, we've expanded the opportunities to network with others with the internet today, to talk to folks from any country around the world, anybody around the world pretty much. And I've always been interested in working internationally with folks. Technology today enables us to have those kinds of networks and to, share. I was talking to folks in Indonesia this morning, with Thailand this morning, Korea, so Australia, UK. There's so many learning-related changes happening, and people whose lives are being changed. Communicating what you found or what you've done to make your contributions to this space is a critical skill. And also to respect others who are part of this discipline, to listen to others, respect others in a genuine manner is increasingly important in this environment today. You need a heavy dose of critical thinking skills and abilities, as well as the ability to see new trends, to juxtapose ideas, to think outside of the little square that you're seated within, your mindset or your perspective. And so today we have these opportunities to share ideas with people from other cultures and places and institutions and organizations. It's an extremely powerful age of learning. We're not only juxtaposing ideas on a printed page, we're juxtaposing ideas on a video screen from people in different parts of the world simultaneously. That is an exciting time to be living in.